Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is a screencast-o-matic presentation and recording for the part of the lesson that has us looking at Indonesia as far as an introduction and overview of geography, history, and culture. Before we get started, please let me encourage you to open up to today's lesson and to scroll down the correct section and get ready to, after we're done reading each passage, complete the key concept questions and or exercises that coincide with each passage. Please remember that you can replay any part of this presentation for detail, clarity, or repetition later on. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Indonesia. An introduction. Indonesia is a country that consists of over 17,000 islands. The largest islands are Sumatra, Java, Kalimantan, the Indonesian part of the island of Borneo, Sulawesi, and Papua, the Indonesian part of the island of New Guinea. Less than 6,000 islands are inhabited. The name Indonesia has been derived from the Greek words Indos and Nesos, which means islands near India. People. About 255 million people live in Indonesia, making it the fourth most populous country in the world after China, India, and the United States. Java, which accounts for just 7% of the country's land area, is by far the most populated island with over 140 million inhabitants. Papua makes up over 20% of the land but is home to only 1% of the population. Indonesia is one of the most ethnically diverse countries in the world, with over 1,000 ethnic groups. Over 90% of these groups are native to Indonesian islands. The main ethnic groups include Javanese, Sudanese, Indonesian or Malay, and Mandarisa. Economy. Manufacturing is an important sector of the Indonesian economy. Many goods such as clothing, chemicals, electronics, and machinery are produced in the country. However, about 40% of the population works in the agriculture industry. Rice is the most important crop, but the country also produces palm oil, sugarcane, and coffee. And government. Indonesia has a republic form of government with the president as a head of state as well as a head of government. The president is elected for a 5-year term and can only be re-elected once. Here are some fast facts about Indonesia. At this time, you may proceed to the exercises and key concept questions, and then when you're finished, you may resume with the next part of the reading. Let's resume to the next part of the reading. Geography. Indonesia is a huge archipelago in Asia that is made up of over 18,000 islands scattered along the equator. The country stretches 3,181 miles from east to west, and it is located between the Pacific and the Indian Oceans. Sumatra, Java, Kalimantan, which is part of the island of Borneo, Sulawesi, and Papua, the western half of the island of New Guinea, are the 5 main islands of the country. Together, they make up about 90% of the land area, and Indonesia shares land borders with 3 countries, Malaysia, Papua New Guinea, and East Timor. Now, most of Indonesia consists of coastal lowlands covered in thick rainforests. The shoreline is probably made up of marshes, swamps, and mangrove forests. The larger islands, such as Sumatra and Papua, have interior mountains. Some of these mountains have peaks reaching over 12,000 in height, and the highest mountain peaks can be found in Papua. Puncak Jaya in Papua is the highest point in Indonesia, with an elevation of 16,502 feet. Many of Indonesia's mountains are volcanic. And there are many rivers in Indonesia, but they are not very long. These rivers are important, though, as they serve as the transportation routes and irrigate the land. The longest rivers can be found in Kalimantan and Papua. Indonesia has a tropical climate because of its location along the equator. Its climate is hot and humid, with temperatures ranging between 61 degrees Fahrenheit and 91 degrees Fahrenheit throughout the year. Please proceed to complete the key concept questions and exercises, and when you're finished, you may resume the presentation. Let's resume our presentation with looking closer at wildlife. The Indonesian archipelago is home to an incredible variety of animal species. It is believed that 17% of the world's animal species can be found in Indonesia. The country has 515 mammal species, which is more than any other country has. Some of these species are endemic, which means that they only exist in this country. And there are 259 endemic mammal species and 382 endemic types of birds in Indonesia. Unfortunately, a substantial number of these species are threatened, and the main threats include habitat loss and poaching. Large areas of forest are being cut to make place for farmland, mostly for palm oil plantations. Here are some animals and wildlife that you ought to know. The rhino. 2 kinds of rhinos can be found in Indonesia, the Javan rhino and the Sumatran rhino. Rhinos are herbivores, which means that they only eat plants, and unfortunately rhinos are nearly extinct. There are around 60 Javan rhinos and 300 Sumatran rhinos left in the world. Down here is the proboscis monkey. The proboscis monkey is known for its odd-looking nose, and the males have noses that can grow up to 7 inches. They use them to attract females, and proboscis monkeys can only be found in the rainforest on the island of Borneo. They spend most of their time up high in trees, but occasionally go to the ground to look for food, such as fruits, seeds, and leaves. Up here to the right is the rhinoceros hornbill. Hornbills are large birds that live in the rainforests of Indonesia. And these birds have large curved beaks with a hollow section on top, which is also called a casque. They eat fruit, insects, worms, and hornbills can grow up to 35 inches long. Down here is the gibbon. And gibbons are small apes that live in the Indonesian rainforest. They are arboreal, which means that they spend most of their lives in trees. And additionally, gibbons do not have tails, but they do have long arms that help them swing quickly between branches. Gibbons are omnivores, which means that they eat both plants and meat, and their favorite food includes fruits, leaves, flowers, insects, and small birds. Let's proceed. The elephant. Indonesia is home to two kinds of elephants, the Sumatra and the Borneo elephant. Asian elephants are smaller than African elephants. They mostly live in the forests and plains, but the number of elephants is reducing because male Asian elephants are hunted for their tusks. Down here is the Komodo dragon. Komodo dragons are the largest type of lizard. They can grow up to 10 feet long and weigh over 300 pounds, and Komodo dragons have an excellent sense of smell, which allows them to smell their prey from miles away. They can only be found on 5 small Indonesian islands. Down here is Anoa. Anoa is the smallest type of buffalo, and they live in the rainforests and swamps of Sulawesi. Anoa have sharp horns which allow them to defend themselves against predators. They are herbivores, which means that they mostly eat low-growing plants such as grasses, ferns, and leaves. Now appears the orangutan. Orangutans live on the Indonesian islands of Sumatra and Borneo, and these are the only 2 places where orangutans actually live. Trees are very important for orangutans since they spend most of their lives in them, and they find their food in trees and also build nests under the branches they sleep in. Down here is the Sumatran tiger. Sumatran tigers are the smallest types of tigers. As the name suggests, Sumatran tigers only live on the island of Sumatra. They are carnivores and hunt for animals such as deer, wild boar, rabbits. The number of Sumatran tigers is shrinking because of their habitat, which is mainly in rainforests, which are getting smaller. Today, there are around 400 Sumatran tigers living in the wild. And down here's the tarsier. The tarsier is a small primate with remarkably big eyes. They live in trees when they catch their food, such as insects, lizards, and worms. Most tarsiers are active during the night, but some also move around in the daytime. They live on the islands of Sulawesi, Borneo, and Sumatra. At this time, you may go ahead and answer the key concept questions and complete the exercises. And then when you're finished, you may proceed to the next part of the presentation, where we move on to our next topics.